Hey everybody, welcome to Perfect Madness Podcast. We today are talking about the effects the internet has on the wrestling business, the good and the bad. I'm your host, GZ Oliver, and we have Adam Eaton. Make your introduction, sir.
While we speak of the internet, I'll just go ahead and say that I am the savior of the IWC, and Perfect Magnets Wrestling is the savior of all podcasts and editorial sites out there.
Interesting take. Um, well, let's first get this right out of the way. Well, we're gonna sit here and talk about the good and the bad of the internet. It's pretty obvious that there's no delusions that we are from the internet. We thrive solely based on the internet. So don't misconstrue that for some of the ridiculousness that we talk about later. Because I feel like there won't be an overlap, but since again this is the internet, there's gonna be idiots out there who comment on all kinds of crazy crap. So but let's hop into it. And do you want to start with a good or bad?
Um, let's start with something good for right now.
We'll start with something good. And we'll go with internet apps like the network.
That's a good
Um,
starting point.
there's no doubt that the network has had a few bumps and along the road, but I think on a large part it's working. It's proving that an internet model for the internet or internet model for wrestling works. That you can stream pay-per-views on there, pay-per-views for other websites or for other businesses and companies, and the WWE app itself and all the pay-per-views they put on and special content. I think that is definitely changing the way internet is viewing or wrestling business is viewing the internet. What are your thoughts?
The internet and wrestling, and with the if we're going with the network, it's a good thing. And if you look at what TNA did, I think back in '05 before they debuted on Spike TV, there was a break when they were on Fox Sports Net, and then they were off air. I think they were viewed solely online from their website, and they were able to survive for like a year or so that way. So we knew that the internet would work and ROH with their iPay-per-views. But what the WWE has done with the network is taken it to a whole nother level. I mean, I'm watching Raw right now in 1995. I started with the very first episode, watched it in order, including pay-per-views. I'm up to 95. I did it with WCW, watching Clash of the Champions and the Nitros, and it's just fun to go back and relive all that. But at the same time, then we have specials like Beast in the East that we wouldn't get without the network. So either we would not see the Finn Balor title change, or we would have to wait until an NXT showing or whatever. There's just a bunch of special things that the network's doing that it's just if you don't have it, I question you as a wrestling fan.
Which I'm going to tie actually in a bad part of this because I don't know if I've ever um, ran my opinion. I think it's in a few different articles that I just couldn't get off the ground about how if there's a lot of streaming sites. The bad downside to the internet is that back in the old days before, the network got up, that even for TNA and their Summerversary, you can easily go online and find a website that will stream the pay-per-view for free. And I don't blame it. I will never admit to ever pirating a pay-per-view that way before because that's illegal. But you can go online and get the pay-per-view for free, and it's breaking the business model. And one of the more disgusting things that I'm seeing now on those streaming websites is that you can stream the network for free onto that website. If you can't support your product with $10 a month, like the WWE, then you can't really call yourself a wrestling fan because you're a piece of crap. There's no way around it. If you're gonna stream the paper or the network, you're a piece of crap. And it's been a controversial point, I guess, or it could be a controversial point, but at the same time, that's how internet's ruining the business. We're getting tons of content and quality on the WWE network. Why stream it for free?
Right. It's just ridiculous, and I don't get it. How you can sit there and say that the old stuff was better, the Attitude Era was better, WCW was better, the NWA, but yet you refuse to go and watch it on the network? Like, it's on there. Quit complaining about Raw. Go buy the network and watch the old stuff.
I
I mean,
agree.
that's what I do. The, yeah, a counterpoint to about streaming sites and pay-per-views, my argument is I wouldn't buy the pay-per-view anyways. That's why I stream it.
I'm
So,
talking about more or less WWE now versus then.
right.
Um,
And here's the thing with that. I mean, I used to order, let's see, the Rumble, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania if I wasn't at SummerSlam live. But even so, it's still like the price to order the pay-per-view is the price of a ticket. So
yeah,
it's like for the price of one of those events or two of those events, I'm paying over the course of the entire year instead of at one shot, and I get more than what I would if I was just by WrestleMania. So I don't understand how you could sit there and say, "Oh, I only ordered WrestleMania and SummerSlam," but you don't have the network. It's like pay the $10 a month and watch those two for free, and pay that $120 like over the course of a year instead of once in April and once in August.
yeah, and the other
To me,
part too is not that I would ever know because getting the streams is a terrible idea because it's illegal. The quality of the network is so much better than a stream, allegedly, that why would anybody sit through a stream just to save $10?
right, it's $10.
You pay that for Netflix, so you can pay it for the network, and you get a lot more if you call yourself a fan.
If you call yourself a wrestling fan, like the all I watch on TV is the network. That's all I watch. If I'm by myself when my fiance's at work, the network is on my TV, and that's all I watch. It's just that's it. I can live without everything else as long as I have the network.
Hmm. I have the network and Netflix. What more do you really need?
Hulu.
And the only reason I would suggest oh, I think we have a technical issue. Hold on. The only reason I would suggest like streaming is not everybody's gonna pay um for cable. I think cable's outrageous, and stuff like the WWE network is proving successful that where was I going? Like the internet is a good way to transition your product. And what I think is one of the best parts of it is if WWE were to continue drawing terrible ratings like they allegedly are, like some of their lowest ratings ever, from what I hear.
Hmm.
So like their lowest ratings going back to like 97 or something ridiculous like that.
Since
Like
the
they're not
Attitude Era.
since the Attitude Era, okay. That if for some reason like they're lucky the fact that they're not vying for a new contract in the next few years from USA, but if the time ever came they would lose a TV contract, they can go right online with their app. And I
Right?
think that's huge.
Since it's already built, it's like if TNA was in the position to create something, then all this stuff with Spike TV and Destination America, it wouldn't be an issue.
I agree. And personally, I would probably still watch TNA just to give it a hard time if I had the cable to watch it. I mean, a lot of wrestling nowadays, even with WWE, is a fast forward product. You don't want to sit through everything. The content isn't hot. We have all the talent, but we don't have the right combination yet. And if we were to put something on the internet like a live show or something, the fact that you can go back later, like Beast of the East, you didn't watch the Divas match, and I don't blame you, but you can fast forward through that Divas match because it was garbage.
That's what
If
I
they were
did.
to, if they were to put Raw on the network and I can just fast forward it when I'm ready to go, I would watch Raw every freaking week. But I'm not
Right.
going to sit down for 3 hours and watch a terrible Divas match, three throwaway mid card matches, and 2 hours of talking.
with a bunch of recaps and commercials.
Yeah, with recaps and commercials in between. I mean, you have a 3 hour show where about 2 hours and 20 to 30 minutes of it is actual content, and you'd be lucky to get a half an hour wrestling out of there. Who wants to watch that? Throw it on the network. I'll fast forward and choose what I want to watch personally, and you're getting all the profit. You're not trying to cut out USA for a profit. You're not trying to cut out advertisers. You're not trying to do this. You're just the sole profit is yours. And I think that's
Right.
what makes the internet much more appealing for stuff like that.
The only thing I have against streams would be against the WWE network
Yeah,
because, like I said, if it's a pay-per-view, I would only stream if I wasn't going to order the pay-per-view anyways.
yeah.
Um,
And that's the other
and
thing
I
too is what was the last pay-per-view they had? Money in the Bank. It did not look like that good of a pay-per-view. I don't think the last pay-per-view worth watching or the last pay-per-view worth watching was WrestleMania. I don't remember
card
anything
wise,
else. Yeah, card like where I would actually have bought the pay-per-view. And because a lot of their mid-card or B-level shows aren't that good. Let's be honest, I'm not going to drop $60 on a crappy card. Like Money in the Bank, I don't care what you say. That was not really that good of a card. The
but
fact that I can't
and
tell
it,
you any of the matches means that show is a throwaway. But I
and
watched
but
it because I have the network.
the thing about that is, um, since I feel like since the network, there hasn't been that many bad pay-per-views. I mean, the card might not be built, but the actual in-ring work and performance put on by the superstars has been really good. And
That's
that just goes to our point of having the best talent or best roster ever. Um, but
they don't know what to
I
do.
think it also has to do with the WWE higher up saying this is on the network. We need to give them something good to watch on our network, and
Yeah,
the wrestlers go out there and have a good show, even though the card's not built up. But I mean, I still think having it on the network helps with everything. Just put a good show overall.
I agree. And that kind of comes, even though obviously there's people are going to start commenting, saying, oh, but Jesus and Adam, you know that they're on pay per view in other countries. Long story short, they're not appealing to your country. Like, as assholeish as that sounds, they just want the app. They want to get all their people to switch over and accustomed to that app. They want to get their app as far as possible, as wide as possible, because that's where the future is for wrestling. It's in this app. Um,
Right,
they want to get away from the failing pay-per-view model because of things like streaming. Streams undercut their product, and I don't blame them to get away from that. You heard how if you believe anything Paul Heyman has to say, internet or the pay-per-view model sank ECW. They couldn't get the money to put on the next show, but they had the demand to put on that next show, but the pay-per-view companies screwed them out of it. So if they were to have the internet or if they were to have the ECW network back then, there's a good chance that they would have had the ability to evolve and get to that next level because they had the TV deal. They had everything in place. They just didn't have the money because the pay-per-view model screwed them. But I guess to put some counterweight on, like I don't have cable, but I would never dream of watching a stream for Raw. Um, so for stuff like that, like Raw, to me, like you said, you only watch the network. I did the math, or obviously it's not really math, but I went and counted all the channels that I watch on cable, and they're between 3 and 5 cable channels, and the other two are just to watch one show in particular. Like I could care less because I can get those on Hulu or something. I'm not going to pay upwards to $80 to $100 a month just to watch Raw. At the end of
right.
the day, I'm not going to get it just to watch Tough Enough. I'll find those
And
online because the internet provides me that ability to.
and again, another argument to that is if you watch the streams live, if you find a live stream, you still view the commercials.
Yeah.
So the advertisers are still getting eyes on their product. And then you can't blame, well, you're bringing the ratings down, because the way that the ratings work is you have to have a Nelson box. You have to be a part of that for them to register what you're watching. And if you're not a Nelson family, as they call it, then they're not counting what you're watching on TV anyways. So it really doesn't matter if you go and stream it.
That's a good point. So I guess there's the good and bad of streaming too, along with the network. I would like to see more companies move towards a network-based model because, in my opinion, I've said this all the time that cable is going the way of the telephone. That in 50 years, there's pretty much we're in an era right now where a landline is pretty much unheard of. I mean, people still have it, but as our generation gets older, we're not going to have a landline in the house. And
You
I feel,
only your grandma has a landline.
mm-hmm, I think my mom has a landline too, but she still calls me from her cell phone all the time. Like nobody uses their house phone anymore. That and my generation gets up there, there's going to be less and less people, or our generation, there's going to be less people with cable and more people with internet. I keep saying to my mom right now, my grandma pays almost $200 a month for internet, TV, and cable. Like it's such a shame that she is not, tech savvy like most people her age to transition over to just something like a Roku and watch everything she wants to because she can watch a ton of her TV shows on the Roku at her leisure. And it's proving that the television model is also breaking, where the pay-per-view model is already broken. I mean, look at TNA, or they've pretty much admitted that they don't care about pay-per-views anymore. They're just going to throw them on TV because they get more money through that than they would through a pay-per-view. Um,
Which is that's completely backwards and asinine, and you could go watch our podcast from
yeah,
last week on our thoughts on TNA.
I do
But
realize
they're
after saying
desperate.
it how hypocritical that whole thing was. But shut up, internet, and shut up, Adam.
It
Okay.
just here's the thing with the stream sites and GFW trying to find a TV deal. WWE thought that they were on top of the world and that they can manipulate a bunch of TV companies and get an outrageous deal for their content, and it almost backfired. And now you have TNA, who's been kicked off a network, almost kicked off another network, and you have GFW trying to find a TV listing, a time slot on TV. And I'm just like, how do you expect that to happen if the top two companies in the nation are having trouble?
Mm-hmm.
My crazy theory was that GFW should work a deal with Netflix to stream on Netflix. And the reason I
Oh.
say Netflix is because I think WWE might have Hulu wrapped up in an exclusive contract because of all the content that they put on Hulu. But I
Mm-hmm.
was just thinking, like, wouldn't that be crazy to have a single wrestling show that streams on Netflix weekly, especially with Netflix original series? It'd be the closest thing to sports that Netflix has.
You know, my pants just got a little bit tighter with that idea. That's actually a brilliant idea. I'm proud. We need to mark this down in the podcast history. You came up with something brilliant because they can.
What someone needs to give this to forward this podcast to Jeff Jarrett and have him
Yeah.
call me.
We'll
Have
take
him email me
horizontal commission.
perfectmadnesswrestling@gmail.com.
What I would like to see too, now that I think about it, like there's apps like Crackle that are free, and you just have to deal with advertisements here and there. That would also be a perfect model for GFW. Dang, dang. Now you just, I don't even want to do the rest of the podcast. I just want to think about how great that would be, or an
What
original
GFW can
series.
do.
Yeah, that's a game changer. Because I don't want to
It
see
would be.
another stupid Donald Trump commercial free Raw, like where it's just nothing but typical and blatant, disgusting advertising. blatantly discuss advertising all throughout your content just because you
Sometimes
need
I
to
need
fill up
those
that gap.
commercials.
Yeah, I'm okay with commercials in wrestling. I'm just not okay with how WWE does their commercials with wrestling, but that's a whole nother issue for a whole nother day, and I don't want to get into that. Um,
It's just if GFW went straight internet, I think that there's so many people that want them to succeed right now. There's so many people that are so anti WWE that if they went to like a Netflix, that people would tune in just because of what they're trying to do. Like, oh, I don't need cable. I already have Netflix. Like, I don't need to
yeah,
find them anywhere. I just
and
think
I
it would be
think,
so much easier for them.
and that also then comes to the whole issue of then their whole content will be online. Like if Lucha Underground just tomorrow went to internet, like Netflix or something, sold all of their content instead of taking a season, which could be another brilliant idea because Lucha Underground does seasons, which I really want to see that type of model because everybody always says, even Stone Cold on his podcast was like, they can't do seasons. They need to be on TV 52 weeks a year. Not really. I would like to see
No,
them.
because
Well, go
the
on.
thing is, they've taken Vince McMahon's idea of being sports entertainment and
Yeah,
actually become sports entertainment. Vince Russo said it in an article the other day comparing all the promotions that Lucha Underground is on a whole nother level other than WWE, TNA, GFW because they're a TV show. They produce it like a TV show, they write it like a TV show, and they have seasons like a TV show.
that's a
And
good
right
point.
now, Lucha Underground is probably the hottest promotion or TV show, whatever you want to call it, in the wrestling industry.
Yeah, and that's why I think something where if they were to do only 30 weeks a year, because aren't they on like episode 20 or something? I don't remember what the number is
What do we
anymore.
count the other week? They were already up to like 30 something.
Oh, okay, then my bad. But the ability to then do, 30 shows a week or 30 shows a year, or 40 shows a year and have those 12 weeks of rest. Like put them on something like the on Netflix where I can constantly go back and watch all their content and then move forward from there. And okay, well now we're going to take, our 6 weeks off and now we're going to take another 6 weeks off and divide it into like a two fall thing or two season show. I think that would make it fresh and be like, okay, I can't wait. Now I got 6 weeks. I'm going to go read back and watch some of their old content and, get ready for the next season and things like that. Or, and like, while it's in rotation, it's constantly fresh because we're constantly going back to the older content. And I think that's kind of where the nostalgia and rose colored glasses to some people have with the network. While you want to sit there and think, oh my God, Attitude Era was great, corporate ministry. Oh, we have to remember Minion and Big and Viscera. Like those were terrible. What we have to remember, Choppy Choppy PP. Like those weren't the greatest parts of the Attitude Era, but we're gonna sit there and be like, oh my God, yeah, ha ha ha. Mae Young gave birth to a hand. Hilarious. Like you watch the Too Hot for TV or whatever another arguably great segment thing that they have on the network, the Jerry Springer. Um, a lot of that stuff is humiliating. Like, ha ha ha, we just watched a 30-minute special about how WWE has an obsession with poop and puke, you know? That's all the Attitude Era was for a grand part. It was just poop jokes.
And most of that stuff comes from the Attitude Era.
Yeah, it's Vince
Like,
McMahon being a
like Beaver
child.
Cleaver.
What was that?
Like Beaver Cleaver.
Yeah. Or hey, I'm gonna go pee in the in Regal's tea. Like that wasn't Attitude Era. That was ruthless
Okay, but that
aggression.
was
But
funny.
still, yeah. I mean, it was funny, but it's still like really tough.
And it's Chris Jericho. He gets a pass.
Which is a great, segue. We're going to segue this right into the IWC and their blatant ignorance to the product. Another way the internet is ruining wrestling is that, well, we can go back and say, like, Regal peeing in tea or Jericho peeing in Regal's tea. What does that have to do with wrestling? They're ruining the integrity of the product. Don't understand that WWE is like wrestling is entertainment. You need to have those backstage segments to make what's happening in the ring make sense. Not everything can be told ROH style in the middle of the ring and hope that the fans understand what's being said or the story being
And
told.
and to that point, half the time ROH doesn't even tell a good story in the ring.
I agree. So I mean, there's that.
Here,
Go on.
while we're up with the IWC, there is something I thought about, and I brought this up when we were working for um, the Twitter news site. That
Mm-hmm.
one of my very first articles I ever wrote as a wrestling editorial or whatever we call
Journalist.
ourselves at Perfect Match, journalist,
I call
broadcast
myself a
journalist.
keyboard jockey. So whatever. Look at the adjective, or no, this would be verb in that sense. Whatever.
It should have been verb, but
Look at the verb.
we are we are using adjectives. But
Yeah.
one of the
I'm
first articles I ever
trying to
wrote,
switch it
I was
around.
talking.
Making action garbage. Never mind.
I was talking about how the IWC would not let Attitude Era type Monday Night War ever happen again. Mainly because I was looking at what happened in 1997 in WCW. Hogan was their champion, won it in February, or I believe he won it in February, or he retained it in February, but he wasn't seen on TV until May. And then he didn't defend his title until August, I believe,
Who are you
as the
talking about?
WCW champion.
Oh, Hogan.
Huh?
Yeah. Hogan. I thought,
Yeah,
like,
Hogan.
what are you talking about? Brock was on TV more than that. Hogan.
No, and
Gotcha.
then so you have that, and then we're saying, "Oh, the NWO was so great. The NWO, like, we need to bring back something like that. WCW was awesome before 1999, like all this stuff." And then Brock Lesnar wins the championship, and they're like, "He's not on TV. The champion should be there, but WCW is great." It's like, okay, now review the first 10 minutes of this podcast, see what we said about the network, and go watch it. Like, and then you will realize what the WWE does now that happened back in the Attitude Era. It's ignorant
I
because
agree.
they don't know what they're talking about. It's a bunch of kids that just like, oh well, my dad said that the NWO was cool when he was a teenager, so
Mhm.
now I think the NWO is cool. It's
It's
like, but
regurgitating the facts
have you
that
seen more than the Bash at the Beach 1996? Like, did you see anything else? Have you seen Nitro from January 4th, 1999? Like, did you see that Nitro?
me personally no. But I mean, was that the poke of death?
Yes,
Okay, I
that
did see
was
the nitro.
that will put
I
some
mean,
butts in the seats.
that'll that put butts, in WWE seats or F seats at that time.
That all happened in one night.
And we'll have trying to think WWE will do things like I was gonna bring up Adam Rose. How they'll take a crap on Adam Rose until he starts to get over, and now all of a sudden everybody's Adam Rose fans. Like
Fandango.
Fandango. Oh, I just wanted to make a Rosebud reference. A bunch of people are freaking lemons. Then Rosebud gets over. Or, wow, Adam Rose gets over, and now everybody's this Rosebud and pretending they never hated him. Or Fandango, who like, oh my god, oh he's a beautiful gimmick. He's basically a cha cha disco inferno. And then he puts on a arguably great match with Jericho at Mania, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm on the Fandango bandwagon now. And then he gets injured. Oh, that guy was always garbage. Like that's one of the things
Like,
I take a lot of credit for with what we do is there's not a lot of the IWC likes to put their opinion out there then hide behind this wall of no credibility where we even will put out our opinions. Like a lot of people are afraid to put out their opinion if they have to have credibility behind it. And I feel like because we write our articles and we put this out there and we're not afraid, like I'm okay with being wrong. I have yet to experience it, but I'm okay with it if it were to ever happen. That at least me, I have credibility to my name and my opinions are out there. That if I for some reason were to say something wrong, people can sit there and go, "Oh my God, you're Jesus Oliver, not WWE 1552." You know, there's a persona attached to my opinions. And I think
Right.
that's what sets us apart from the typical IWC, not just intelligence wise, but um I don't want to keep saying credibility, but there's a sense of if we're going to be wrong, people can call us out on that. So it then challenges us to be even smarter.
Like we're not hiding. We show ourselves on camera. We promote our website on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Like our names are on it. It's not an alias. It, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we make it known that we run Perfect Madness Wrestling. So you can go back and read our articles. We don't take stuff down. Everything that we've ever written for Perfect Madness Wrestling is on there. Like
Which
the
we're going
writers,
to bring up this. We're going to bring up another point and kind of combine them again because it just brought up this. Our last website, Wrestling Twitter News. Um, I loved working for them. The internet provided that avenue for that website to take off and provide a living for its editor. It provided us a way to meet, but it also provided a way for me to add credibility to Jesus, to who I am. It turned into a steaming pile of horse shit that would then be dumped on McMahon on stage or whatever, the many different things WWE would do with poop. But even him, one of the reasons I went to that website was the credibility that came with it. Back in, 2010, there was a lot of credibility to that website, and it was an honor to work for them. And then when it turned into nothing but, oh my God, so and so said this on Twitter, now it's news. And then you call them out on that and start questioning their credibility. They're like, oh my God, we're gonna fire you. We're not gonna fire you if you read my article. We're just gonna block you on the internet because we're fucking grown-ups. And we're gonna remove all your articles. There's been people that work for
right?
this website that we fucking hate now, and I'm not going to remove their articles because if you're going to take the time to have an opinion and well state that opinion and let it be known, you could be fucking Hitler, and I won't remove it because it's your opinion. I look back on some of my works now and I'm like, wow, I was really naive. But I'm willing to say, hey, I want to learn about this product. I'm going to jump in and know more things about it now. You don't sit there and grow up and say, like, you don't at 5 years old become a film scholar. You're too busy watching freaking Winnie the Pooh. You couldn't even fathom to comprehend a movie like Pulp Fiction. It's just because they're two different worlds. Many people are at different stages of wrestling and their understanding of wrestling that while my reaction or my opinion on this is this way, I'm willing to learn whether or not I'm wrong with that opinion, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel that a lot of people they don't have their own opinion.
I agree.
And the IWC is a popular opinion community. It's a majority rules. And that's, I feel, what sets us apart because I'm not afraid to admit that I am a John Cena fan. I have been from day one, and I will be till the last day. Like, that's just, that's what it is. Like, I will defend him every time someone comes up with John Cena sucks. Like, no, he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. And I'll give so many reasons, and I'll name more than 5 moves. I'll name a bunch of great matches. I'll say where creative went wrong and why you feel the way you do about him. But
Yeah.
all they have to say is John Cena sucks because my friend thinks John Cena sucks because the internet thinks John Cena sucks. Okay, but why do you think John Cena sucks?
Well,
And they
wasn't
can't answer
you
that.
that brought up the whole philosophy of, well, now you're a Brock Lesnar mark? Why do you like Brock Lesnar? All he is suplex repeat. You know, John
Right,
Cena has more moves than Brock Lesnar, yet, Brock Lesnar is a godsend and Cena is hated. While I
exactly.
understand the legitimacy of the gripes that Cena haters have, and I think I even talked about this on a podcast ago or two ago, about how John Cena. Yeah, I did talk about it on the last one. He just needs to take a couple months off, refresh his gimmick, rest his body, and come back better than ever. I don't
Right.
hate
Another
Cena, but I prefer the business more than the wrestler. And while I will criticize Cena at every chance I get, I'm still a Cena fan. I hate his character. I like his in-ring work and what he can do. Even now, I think he's doing some of the best work of his career by putting over talent in the mid card. And that's another thing the IWC continues to forget. We live in a world in WWE where wins and losses don't matter. And then someone like Dean Ambrose or Cesaro will go out with Cena and have a 5-star match and lose. And they're like, oh my God, he just buried them. I go, no, because a good match is better than an outcome. People don't put a career together necessarily based on outcomes. If that were true, the ringmaster would never be known as Stone Cold.
Ric Flair would not be as great as he was because he almost lost every match he was in.
I agree. Like, not only did he not lose every match, name one person that tapped out from the figure four. Like the
Right.
move that he's second known for behind the chop, depending on who
he
you ask.
he won most of his matches by like time limit draws or disqualification, or he lost by disqualification. But guess what, IWC? You know what happens under disqualification? The title doesn't change hands.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Depending on who you
it,
talk to, like they'll support something like a Ric Flair, but then say, Owens just got buried by Cena. Not really, because I'm not judging that match of, oh my God, who won, who lost. I didn't say Finn Balor buried Owens. They put on a good match, and I want to see that more. The title could be irrelevant. The title is a prop in the storyline that they're telling. I definitely feel that wrestling belts are props. I've said it before, but those props are important. You can't do a Fast and Furious without a car. The car is a prop, mind you, but it is the sole basis for the story that they're telling. And I think that's the logic gap that we miss as the IWC grows with their ignorance. That
and I think
oh god.
an, another problem that kind of goes with this, the IWC doesn't realize that the WWE is sports entertainment, and there is a difference in sports entertainment and wrestling. And they need to understand how the WWE works and how ROH works, and that TNA is somewhere in the middle.
I agree. I always attribute TNA to like Canada in the 90s. Like they totally just wanted to be like America. Like everything was like, yeah, go America. We want to do like you're doing that? Okay, we're going to do this. There's obviously big differences and we're not going to go to the socio-economical policies of Canada versus US, but a lot of the stuff the US did, Canada also did. And it's like, okay, no, you need to grow your own identity. And they did. In the 2000s, Canada really grew their own identity and they thrived. And that's what TNA is stuck doing right now. Like they went in the opposite. They had their own identity. They were brilliant as a company. They were pulling in decent ratings for a small company like they were. They just needed to do a lot more advertising. I think that was what everybody said. Well, who cares about the dusty finishes and all the screw job endings and stuff? Like, I don't hear the IWC sitting there like, oh my God, Jeff Jarrett just interfered. Like he's done that. We've had the fifth match in a row on a pay per view and in a wonky finish. Like they didn't care because oh my God, TNA and TNA is God as far as my opinion. And in some cases it was. Oh, who cares if we're gonna do a Full Metal Mayhem? That's such a TNA or WWE ripoff of TLC. They didn't care about that because oh my God, it was a really good match between two people. We got to see Abyss do Monsters Ball with Jeff Hardy. And like oh my God, it's great. Like no, it's just a hardcore match. But if WWE were to put something now like they have, and I've even fallen for it because it's stupid. I get it, it's stupid, but it's entertainment. The street fight versus a no holds barred versus a falls count anywhere or something like that. Like those are the same
Vote for
match.
one of them on the app.
But I'm
Which
not mad that they're the same match. I'm mad about how they presented it. Like we're idiots. TNA didn't, insult our intelligence. They just, okay, legally we can't call this TLC, so we're gonna call it Full Metal Mayhem. It's the same fucking match. Who cares? It's wrestling. I enjoyed it because the entertainment is good, and I didn't feel insulted when I had to watch it.
Right. And
And
then there's the thing, the IWC picks their promotions, and then that becomes end all be all. Like the
true.
WWE sucks. I'm a TNA fan. Like, okay, I love all wrestling, and I've said this before that I'm not a fan of a promotion. I am a fan of the business. So if WWE sucks right now, then they suck right now, and I'll go watch something else, or I'll go watch the network and watch old WWE stuff. It's like if TNA sucks, I used to love TNA. I would rate TNA over WWE. TNA Impact used to be must-see TV for me, and I looked forward to that every single week. Now, not so much. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh, well, TNA, they're so great," like, because they're not. Do they put on decent shows? They do. Is it must-see? No. Like the only must-see promotion right now for me is Lucha Underground.
I
But I'm
agree.
not going to.
Well,
I'm not going to sit there and say it's Lucha Underground or nothing. Like I'm not going to sit there and compare Lucha Underground to the WWE and say the WWE needs to be more like Lucha Underground. Like that shit. That's retarded.
and I think that comes back to what I was saying with, like, I would watch the business. I'd watch wrestling any chance I got if TNA was online. I would watch Lucha Underground every day if TNA was online, or if Lucha was online. But I feel like even with Raw, I haven't watched it in 6 weeks because I don't have easily accessible avenues to watch it because they're not must see shows. I'm not missing anything by not watching the product. So why does it matter if I go to watch the show or not? I guess if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like it's not
Lucha
must
is
see.
worth going out of my way to watch because Lucha's original.
Lucha is must see.
But anything else, take it or leave it. I don't really care.
There would be like I don't even think that on Raw there's like must see moments anymore. And this could lead to another podcast um about creating moments and things. But there's not even like a within I think since the beginning of the year, maybe even well into last year. Like when was the last moment that we're gonna look back on as wrestling fans and say like that was a great moment?
On Raw, on free TV,
Yeah.
Lesnar throwing a chair or a door into the car, or wow, a car door into the crowd.
But why? Because he hit a fan? Not because
Well,
he threw the car door. Like
yeah,
people aren't talking about Lesnar hitting the like throwing a car door. They're talking about he hit a fan.
yeah. I was just being facetious.
I know. But how far back do you have to go?
I think maybe no. For my opinion, only because I was there live, the thing I can think of was Hogan's return to WWE and Brock Lesnar and Taker setting up in February 2014.
Sting's appearance on Raw
That's a good
would be
one.
will it would be a big moment. But
Yeah, I'll
the
give you
thing
that.
about it is, it, I had to sit here for a few minutes to think about it.
Yeah,
Like when
I
I
guess
say
I'd
attitude era moments, what are we thinking about? This is your life.
beer trucks,
Um, beer truck, yeah.
monster trucks, like
Zamboni,
yeah, the Zamboni. There you go.
Kane's
Um,
debut. Like, I mean,
there's
that
so
wasn't on
many.
Raw, but
Who's gonna switch over to which company? Like, what's happening? No,
right,
are
it
we
was
gonna
so
see?
must see. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, that's off topic.
And well, even though we'll sit there and say, there was so many must-see moments on Raw and Nitro, we said in the beginning, there was also a lot of shit that happened in the Attitude Era too. Like there was a lot of bad. So we're not
Right,
delusional.
and we're sitting here and admitting it,
Hmm.
and we know that it was there. But that's the problem with the IWC. They don't realize that it wasn't there because it's just all these people that's like, oh, the Attitude Era was so cool because I got the Attitude Era DVD, and it showed Austin in a beer truck, and This Is Your Life was funny because it's Mick Foley and The Rock, and
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't get to see all the other stuff.
The other one too, like to even tie it in today, there's nothing worth seeing on Raw where I feel like, oh my God, this is worth seeing. I'm not gonna look back on this Raw in 10 years and think, man, that was really cool. He destroyed a car. No, there's still times that I'll look back in an old Raw. I'll sit through a half an hour of bad to see an hour of good.
To see Austin blow up the DX bus.
Yeah, I'll see him, shoot Vince McMahon in the head, like because it all drew to something. While the undercard was still good, there was a lot of bad, but it's worth going through. Where Raw, there is about on a 2.5 hour show without commercials, there's maybe 15 minutes worth watching. I'm gonna
which
YouTube
is
it.
uh which is now the Cena match for all of you
Yeah,
Cena haters out there. You want to sit there and tell me that you would rather see Seth Rollins and the Authority talk for the first 30 minutes of Raw than watch Cena put on the best match of the night, who has been since the U.S. Open Challenge begun?
I agree, but because the IWC is so delusional that they're going like, oh my God, Seth Rollins, he's my boy. No, he's a great guy. No, he's doing exactly what you hate, talking segments.
Right. And then here's another thing that it baffles me. Should I talk about Cena Owens or should I talk about the NXT?
You can talk about both, I guess, because we're gonna end up having to wrap up soon.
Okay, I'll try to make this quick. With Cena Owens, Cena destroys Kevin Owens on the mic every single week. Kevin Owens comes out and says the most mind-boggling things, and I'm sitting there saying, "Did you really just say that?" Like before their match at Money in the Bank, Kevin Owens is talking about how he doesn't believe in never giving up. So basically, he's calling himself a quitter. But the IWC is so stupid that they don't realize that that's what Kevin Owens is saying
He doesn't believe in
because
giving up.
and never giving up. He's saying that John Cena's saying never give up is stupid. It's like basically you're saying that you give up. You're a quitter.
I guess it might be an argument of context, but
It's just like that's dumb, like to say you don't believe in ever giving up. Because if you had given up, you wouldn't be where you were, just like Cena said. Like it's just mind boggling. And then Kevin Owens comes out for the last 3 weeks and says, or ever since this whole feud started, and he's been saying the same thing that Cena comes out for the last 10 years saying the same thing. Well, for the last couple of months, Kevin Owens, you have been coming out saying the exact same thing.
I agree.
So it's just it, but I mean, we get a pass because Kevin Owens has only been doing it for 6 weeks and not 10 years. Like,
True.
like, if you look back from 2006, CM Punk was everybody's favorite wrestler from 2006 until Straight Edge Society, and then 2011 he drops a pipe bomb and he's everybody's favorite wrestler again until he wins the championship for like 200 days, and then everybody hates him.
444, but okay.
Huh?
Mr.
No, I'm
400.
saying
Oh,
I'm saying at like the 200-day mark, like he held the title for 200 days, and then people started hating him. Like, oh, he needs to lose the title because he's just burying talent. He's just burying Daniel Bryan because Daniel Bryan doesn't beat him. Then Daniel Bryan finally wins, and then all of a sudden, well, he wasn't that good. Daniel Bryan wasn't that good. I'm tired of
yeah.
seeing him on Raw. He sucks. He's burying talent. Like, anytime that their guy comes up, then they turn on him. And that's why I feel that the IWC doesn't have their own opinion. Because as soon as someone's like, well, I was never a Daniel Bryan fan anyways, someone else is like, oh, I wasn't a Daniel Bryan fan either.
Yeah, but you can be also like an idiot in our group on Facebook. That's what we do, or what's what I do, where they sit there and come up with all these ridiculous conspiracy theories, which is another part of the IWC of their armchair booking and all these conspiracy theories that come with their booking. Like you don't like Daniel Bryan, but then you say you want quality wrestling and Cena sucks. Like say what you will, Daniel Bryan is kind of like Bizarro Cena. Bryan isn't the greatest on the mic. He can cut a promo better with the best of them. He's not the greatest, but he can hang in there. But if you put him in that ring, as long as he stays healthy, he can out wrestle almost anybody in the company.
The
Where
problem is,
Cena can wrestle really good. Don't get me wrong. There's things that I wish he would do differently, but if your gripe about Cena is that he can't put on a good wrestling match and then come up with a scenario to bury Daniel Bryan, then you just don't understand wrestling. You're a typical idiotic IWCer.
and that's the thing, they don't understand wrestling and the business. They just want to see their favorite superstar do well. And that's not a bad thing. Like, I want to see my favorite guys get their shot and shine and stuff. Like, there's a reason that I want those guys to be there. But I also understand that there's only one championship. Like, there's only
And
one guy that could hold that spot. Like, and I
I
mean,
think,
how many greats can we look back on and say, and they were never champions? One of the namesakes of this freaking podcast, Mr. Perfect,
yeah,
was he? He was never a WWE champion. Like, the only world champion he won was in AWA, I believe. And
yeah,
but he was never the WWE champion. But he's still a Hall of Famer that everyone is like, he was so great.
I completely agree.
So it's
And
like you just
and even for a while, it took realistically Macho Man a little bit to win that title too, from when he got huge to him finally winning.
and
He
then
didn't,
even after he won his first one in '88, didn't it probably took him a couple years to win it again.
I know it took him. I was gonna say like almost 4 to 5 years to finally win the title to capitalize, if I remember correctly. And then he never really won his next title until maybe no, because 90 was it 92 or wasn't it
He
not
won in
until
'88.
WCW? I'm gonna look this up
He's
because I
a
don't.
two-time WWE champion, I believe.
Okay, so it was about 91, 92 ish.
Yeah, one around there he won it again, but that's still like 2 to 3 years after losing it to Hogan at WrestleMania 5.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so there's these different idiosyncrasies within the IWC that just makes them unbearable.
Right. It's like you have to understand that, like, because you don't like CM Punk or you don't like Daniel Bryan or you don't like John Cena, like, there are millions of other people that have a different opinion than you.
Well, I would like to attribute this, if I may, and hear me out. I would deal with 100 Hulk Hogan's in the NWO to see one Eddie Guerrero, one Dean Malenko, one Rey Mysterio, a Jericho. I would rather see them destroy the undercard with great wrestling and deal with one shitty match from Hogan to draw money for the company. The difference is WCW didn't know how to carry a mid card, and nobody could elevate up to a higher position, and a lot of stuff in the mid card was stupid, like a disco duck gimmick, or Mexican, was it? I'm trying to think of Mexican jumping beans or something, like the whatever, like just really stupid stuff. The mid card had nothing for them, but they could tear the show down with their abilities. I'm okay with somebody like Cena or Hogan being the money draw if it provides the opportunities for everybody else. And I think that's what the IWC fails to believe. They think that money draws don't matter. Who cares who your money is for the company? Give me wrestling. I want to see somebody like, I'm trying to think, Justin Gabriel. Oh my God, I can't believe they fired Justin Gabriel or Jinder Mahal or Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is highly talented. He will never make it to the main top card. He'll never be at the top of the card because he's just not a money draw. I
I
like him in
mean,
the mid card. I want to see him tear down a show with his wrestling ability, but I'm not going to be angry because Cena's taking his spot away because realistically, there's no spot there. And your argument,
yeah.
the argument with Aaron Carter, EC3, everybody's like, oh my God, he got held back by Daniel Bryan. Fuck off. You don't know wrestling. His gimmick in NXT or not, was it NXT or was he
Yeah, I
Is it?
don't. He never made it to the main roster.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it was still NXT then. But
Yeah,
he's never gonna get where he is because he has a terrible gimmick. Well, obviously, WWE fumbled him in his abilities. TNA gave him a gimmick. It's successful, and he has the ability to take off. It's not that John Cena took his spot or Randy Orton has his spot and won't give it to him. It's that WWE didn't know what to do with him. And now he's found somewhere else to be successful. Albeit TNA is a sinking ship, he found a character that works. And if he were to go to a different company, he knows what pieces to put together to then elevate himself even more.
right.
And I think that's what the IWC forgets. That WWE doesn't have all the pieces to a working puzzle. Other companies do. There's different perspectives. There's different freedoms and liberties that a company can give to a wrestler, and they will be successful.
They forget. They get confused between the show aspect and their favorite wrestler and the business aspects of what's really going on. They understand that it's all scripted and that this person is being told what to do, and they go out there and do it. But like it's hard to explain their confusion when they're like, well, John Cena beat Dolph Ziggler, so he's buried him. But can you provide the evidence that John Cena said he will not lose to Dolph Ziggler?
And I don't think so because storyline wise, he has to keep winning his title. They're not going to just drop the title and then, oh my God, what are we going to do for our open challenge?
It makes no sense. Like Cesaro should have won. No, because then what is your boy Kevin Owens going to do at Battleground?
Exactly. And personally, what would make it must see TV? And here we go, armchair fucking booking. But I would like to see somebody like Cesaro win a title and then go and then feed into a triple threat at Battleground. You know, something interesting. Change the product up. It's too formulaic right now.
Right?
Raw's as
Like yes.
formulaic as
I
it's ever
mean
been.
that that would make like that would be kind of interesting. And I'm not going to say I didn't think about that, but the story between Cena and Owens right now, like leave it alone.
I
Like
agree.
you don't need to add Cesaro. It's the best thing going on WWE TV. Leave it alone. Let them have their third match. But what you have done with this, with the last 2 weeks of Cesaro versus Cena, has now added Cesaro to feud with Owens. Because my question is, what is Owens going to do after Cena?
Yeah.
And the IWC doesn't see that. Like our friend Chris, who usually joins us, he was asking the instant reaction that the internet gives to wrestling fans, how we can go watch Raw and then sit here and say, oh, that was stupid because Cesaro lost. But what are you thinking about next week? What are you thinking about Battleground if Cesaro wins?
Yeah.
So
And that's the
yeah, you
other
have
important part too, is to understand is, well, I think that would be a really good ingredient to the storyline. The soup hasn't spoiled yet, so we don't need that ingredient. Like, we don't need to have Cesaro there yet. I would like to see somebody like Owens then get the title, maybe drop it because he's too injured, you know, for the open challenge, and then they're fighting back and forth or something. And then Cena's like, well, I want my rematch. Like, you got to think long down, long term down the road. Where do we go from here? It's not
because
it's not Raw is over. Okay, good job, everybody. Now let's try to figure out what to do next week. It's let's figure out next week. Let's figure out the next 6 months and find out how we're going to get there.
it's like Eric Bischoff said in his book, I believe, he would write backwards.
Okay, yeah.
Like, this is where we want to go. And the WWE is doing it now with WrestleMania, which kind of irritates me a little bit because I feel that they should be focused on SummerSlam, because between SummerSlam and the Rumble and WrestleMania, like anything could happen. Someone could get a wellness strike, someone could get injured. God, I hope not, but like just anything could happen. Like someone's contract could come up that just randomly decides not to re-sign. Like,
Someone could randomly retire like AJ and not have to
yeah.
lose their whole contract and then try to find a way to get out of it so they can go to a different company. Like there's a lot of variables that go into it. I
But you
that's
still
the
have to plan you still have to plan ahead a couple months. You have to know where you're going. And I could see the Cesaro, Cena, Owens triple threat happening at SummerSlam, because if you have Owens beat Cena at Battleground, which everyone is saying that's going to happen, we will talk about spoilers in a minute, but the spoiler going around right now is Owens beating Cena, and it makes sense storyline wise, so I don't have a problem. But now we're looking at, well, Cena has a rematch at SummerSlam, or coming up. He's a former
Yeah.
champion. He has a rematch. So now you have Owens for Cena 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now you could throw Cesaro in there. You could have Cesaro beat Cena on Monday,
Exactly.
because you have Cesaro challenge Cena for #1 contendership or something, or just Cesaro say, "I want a match because I know I can beat you." Have Cesaro beat him. Well, now Cesaro say, "Well, I just beat the #1 contender, so now I'm the #1 contender," and now you have a three-way feud. You have Cena lose again, um, by like Owens pinning Cesaro or something. Cena can move on from that feud, and now you have Owens and Cesaro going forward with a great mid-card feud from two great wrestlers
And
for
it
the
even
U.S.
comes
title.
back down to what I was saying. Owens could injure Cena in this match. Cena goes to the wayside or something, and it because Cesaro, even though he lost, had two great outings and now is a worthy contender. Because wins and losses don't matter in WWE. It's ability and matches that you put on. I mean,
It's
that's
the
the only
ability.
reason Ziggler's still around. How many
It's
matches
the
has Ziggler
ability.
lost?
Right. It's the ability to connect to the crowd, and with Cesaro's match on Raw against Cena, he has now connected to the crowd.
I
People
agree.
are now looking at Cesaro more than they have his entire career, except for when he said that the ring has 4 ropes.
Yeah. Shut up.
So it's just like
Mm.
now now they're looking at Cesaro, so now you can build on that, and there's just so many things you can do. But if you were to listen to the IWC and have Cena drop the title, now Cesaro's screwed, Cena's screwed, Owens is screwed.
Mm-hmm. But I actually have to get going, so we're gonna wrap this up at right around an hour. And we will talk about spoilers and stuff another day. But if people who are listening can come up with something that we didn't think of and want us to talk about more, please leave it in comments and message us and yell at us, because you're the IWC. You're going to yell at us and let us know what we forgot and what you want us to talk about more. So, Adam Eaton, let's sign off here. Because, I mean, personally, I have plenty of more things I want to talk about. And do a part 2 to this podcast because there are things that we haven't even touched the surface on.
All right,
Maybe.
we got off topic a bit, but still related back. But
Yeah,
yeah, we'll
let's.
go part 2 either sometime. Well, this week's about over, but within the next couple days or next week.
Yep, I'm completely okay with that. We might have a 2-part podcast this week. Okay,
Awesome.
sign off, sir.
Be sure to follow us everywhere. At Perfect Madness Wrestling. You can find us Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
And I know the Twitter is like
At
PMW
PMW Podcast.
PMW podcast. Follow him at the Savior 45. Follow me at Jesus Oliver, all one word, capital G, little O. And add us on the Facebooks, so we can talk. And like our page on Facebook, Perfect Madness Wrestling. I think that's everything we got to talk about. So, or have time to talk about, because we still have a lot to talk about. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.